here from Bindusagar Lake, located in the right side of the Talabazar Road, leading from Kedarguri Chowk to Lingaraja Temple, Old Town, Bhubaneswar, the capital and largest city of the Indian state of Odisha, located in the Kodra district. We are here today with yet another weekly recap in our podcast episode number 15. That's more fingers than I have. Whoa, we did it. I'm, of course, your host, Yaku of Nizaku, and with me today is Lamilo Cappuccino que no necesita caparino. And we are, of course, as ever, produced by Perji Yujikonik Bluski Kitori Jajema Ochote Nabroar Kuro 16 Squad Sanseki.
What?
What's up, Yaku? What's up, Yaku? Great to be here. Great to be back once again with your weekly dose of PondCast action. For those that are maybe tuning in for the first time, welcome to a bit of a talk show, a bit of a recap show here to go over the events of the week. We have no tournament casting here today, not tonight. We reserve that for the weekend. Until then, though, we're going to be catching everyone up on everything that's been going on in the land of StarCraft.
Indeed, we shall. And whew, we got some stuff. We got a lot of tournaments to go over, a couple of things that are tournaments to go over.
Yeah, we have a lot to go over here. And we have our first event coming up here. It is a bit of a sister tournament to the Masters Swan Open, which is this weekend, by the way. Welcome to the Magic Cup Masters Cup number 106. For those that are curious, this is a MMR restricted event. This was a tournament that is bi-weekly. Every 2 weeks, we do have the Magic Cup Masters Cup, and is restricted to players from around Masters 2 and below.
Yeah. It's a sister tournament to our own Master Swan. I wish it was a sister tournament to Tuna Cup, because I feel like that's just fitting with the name.
True.
Yeah, I do see a lot of familiar faces from our amateur events coming up once again in Magic Cup. Magic Carp Masters Cup. Gotta say it real quick.
Hey, you thought Tenacious Turtle Tussle was bad, mate. Nah, they got you there, Pappy. They got you there. But yeah, it's really great to see this event has been going strong for a long time. Again, every 2 weeks. It is what MSO used to be back in the day as well. And it is organized, or at least casted, by Captain Canuck. So big shout out to Captain Canuck. We have a lot of regulars, as you did mention. Adez, the Brazilian Terran player. We have Captain Britain. Not from Britain, not from the UK. Yes, from the Philippines. He's also played in our tournaments. We have Neo, not our Neo, but the other Neo. There's like two or three of them out there.
Yeah,
so
Costa Rican Neo, not to be confused with Peruvian Neo. Also not to be confused with Eon, also from Costa Rica.
Also not to be confused with Neo Shaggy.
Yeah. From Peru, if I remember right.
Exactly. So we had Neo, we had Patches, Mantega, Wiseman, Xenodactyl. I haven't seen Xenodactyl in a long time, so it's great to see him there. The only player that I'm not too familiar with is a Wiseman, but regardless, great to see them all duking it out here. And looks like Captain Britain was able to take it in the end. Did drop a map to Mantega in the ZVZ, but alas, did look quite more dominant in these other matches, leading into the grand finals.
Yeah, well, ZVZ. What can you do? What can you do, really?
What can you do? Again, Captain Britain has been a pretty strong player for a long time. He's around like 4.7-ish K MMR, so is the one to beat. And did come out on top here, so very well done, very nicely done. And yeah, look forward to seeing the future events as well. This is usually over the weekend on Saturdays. Usually it's a little bit early for us to tune into, but every now and then do try to tune in, check out some of the more amateur StarCraft going on out there.
Yeah, every now and then we actually wake up.
Uh-huh.
And we have something to put on while we begin our days. So, yeah, it's nice to see.
Definitely. From there, we do move on to some other more fun events here.
Yes.
Something that we're not too used to, but some 2v2 events were going on.
Yeah, not just one, but two.
2v2s.
Yeah, two 2v2s. Happened throughout the week, and pretty interesting to see. I wasn't quite able to tune into either of these, but I'm glad to see that we are getting a bunch of them back in here, and it was also kind of curious seeing some of the combinations that we had in
Mhm.
both of these tournaments. I guess we'll begin with Wardy's 2v2 and 3v3 Cup Series. I don't believe the 3v3 has been played out yet, but the 2v2 portion
Yeah.
has.
Yeah, for sure. So we mentioned this last time, but basically, Wardy originally a couple of weeks, if not a couple of months ago at this point, did host the TLMC 2v2 event to feature some of the newer maps that were featured in the TLMC, the one that we're about to get into later on. But because they had so much fun, because there was so much viewership and so much interest by the community, Wardy was like, you know what? Let's make this a monthly. So now, from here on forward, at least for the remainder of the year, there are going to be some 2v2 and 3v3 events over the next couple of months. So it's really cool to see that, again, he's shining a bit of a light on an aspect of StarCraft that has been neglected for what feels like a very long time.
Yeah, what was it? Just what? How long was the drought of maps in the team
Uh,
game map pool? I think it lasted like 9 years. Pretty much, it was updated, I think, once
mhm.
in the third or second season of Legacy of the Void. So this would have been in early 2017, something like that, and then never again until earlier this year.
Yeah, it's been a very long time since the 2v2 map pool was updated. It was, as you mentioned, earlier this year, and it might be updated later on in the upcoming months as well. So, yeah, it's really cool that we're able to have some 2v2 events again. And as you mentioned, I think coming into this, there was a lot of hype around Bjorn and Maru for good reason. Of course, you know, they're both good friends, they're both some of the best players in the world. Despite that, they weren't the champion.
Yeah, that they were not. They had a very close series against the dynamic duo of Spirit and Geralt, once again proving that one Terran, one other race is always better than two of the same race.
There you
One
go, there you go.
Terran, one Zerg, or one Terran, one Protoss, better than literally every other combination in the entirety of 2v2.
I
That is
mean,
my hot take, and I stand by it.
to be fair, when it comes to the 2v2 meta, I believe the best combination is Terran Protoss because you have one player going mech and then the other player goes Skytoss, and it's
It,
disgusting.
it,
Uh,
I was gonna say hot take, but yeah, that's probably right. It would be Terran and Zerg, if not for the
Mhm.
fact that Terran can't build on creep in 2v2.
Yeah, yeah.
I
The
think that
problem
was
with
I think that was specifically intentional as a balance choice.
yeah, yeah, like it's an interesting dynamic how that isn't applicable. That is applicable to 2v2, but not to co-op. Where co-op you can
Yeah,
build buildings on creep and all that stuff, and in 2v2 you cannot. But yeah, Zerg is usually considered to be the weakest race in 2v2 only because of the lack of expansion. So usually in 1v1, the Zerg advantage is having more bases, having a better economy, and then even if you have a weaker army, you can just trade over time and overwhelm your opponent. In 2v2, there aren't as many bases to take, and you can't really do that
there
as well. So
there aren't, but if you have a Terran teammate, they can
mhm.
mule and then they can give you their resources.
True, true. They can give you
Smart.
those resources. There you go. But yeah, congratulations to Spirit and Geralt as they barely did come out on top. Again, I do recommend checking out Wardy's stream and Wardy's YouTube for the VODs for that event. I'm sure it was a lot of fun, and I look forward to the upcoming match or the upcoming 2v2 events in the future to see if more people try it out and more people embrace the 2v2 aspect of StarCraft 2. Not the most balanced game mode, not at all, but it's not about balance. It's about fun.
Look, at least it's not 4v4.
Oh god,
On
true,
on
true.
this note, I would like to say that from what Wardy has stated on the beginning of these tournaments, the next tournament should be a 3v3, which should be in October.
So they're alternating,
And then
I
we
guess.
lead up to the 4v4 in November, and then the December
No.
free for all.
No, they
no.
alternate.
Yes.
No.
They alternate.
Smart.
There you go. But you spoke about interesting team ups, and I'm curious to see that Hero Marine teamed up with No Money, aka No Mercy, like that. Yeah, because I mean, unless you're in, I guess, a part of the German
Deutsche Terran
community, but
boys. Yeah.
yeah, we never see them interact. Like, no, if you remember, No Mercy, he was very close with Soon and with Shock Ripper, the ex boys. Hero Marine wasn't a part of that. So, yeah, I didn't know that they were close or friendly in any way. So, to see them playing together, it's like, oh, cool. Like, I guess they're friendly with each other outside of just the game.
Yeah. Those Deutsche boys, they are They're pretty tight from what I've heard. It is a pretty interesting case of Hero Marine specifically, just because he's been
Mm.
on mouse for 20, 30 years, something like that. He's literally been the only StarCraft player on mouse sports. So
Mhm.
it does get pretty lonely. It has to get pretty lonely over there,
Uh,
which is why it's also pretty neat that
Yaku? Mana was on
yes.
mouse at some point.
Mana was on mouse like 50 years ago. That's, he was briefly on the same team with Hero Marine until the torch got passed over.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, Hero Marine, it's really cool to see him interacting with more people, just because, as you mentioned, like he's been alone on mouse sports or mouse for a very long time. It was the most recent WTL season where he finally debuted in WTL, right? Like partnering with Offside. So
Yeah.
he's branching out a little bit more, branching out.
Yeah, it was a little unfortunate that he only was able to partner with them towards like after the second half of the group stage, when they became Offside plus Gabe instead of just Offside. But yeah, hopefully that continues into the next season.
Yeah, he's socializing with other people. It's crazy. It's cool to hear.
He gets to put the dance moves on them.
There you go.
Gets to make them pizza.
So really exciting to see that. Outside of that, nothing too crazy. We had the combination of Lemon and Silky. We had a GG Machine and Shameless.
Yeah, I would say that apart from Bjorn, Maru, and Spirit and Geralt, Lemon and Silky was the one that I looked at his bracket and I thought, ooh, this has potential to go pretty far. And they had a very close series, it looks like, against Bjorn and Maru, so I guess that stays true.
Yeah, I think the other interesting thing about that combination is that, like, similarly to No Money, teaming up with some of the other Terran German players like Soon and Shark Ripper, I would have assumed that Silky would have teamed up with some of the ex-Camel Boys, right? Because, they've all been teammates for a long time, referring to Tudming or referring to Lancer or Firefly. But no, teamed up with Lemon instead. So again, like that also, like, it's just a fun way to, like, give people outside looking in a bit of insight as to, like, oh, like these guys, like, clearly they're like on friendlier terms, like clearly they interact a little bit more. It's like, it's just cool to see.
I have to check the timeline of this, but that might be another reason why Silky wanted to team up with Lemon specifically. But we'll get into that a little bit later in a different event that we're going to be talking about.
For sure. Outside of the WardiTV event, there was the Bratok event, also a 2v2 cup. I was unfamiliar. I didn't know that this is the second edition of this. He's been hosting it for a little bit of time.
Yeah, I've had a lot of revelations when I saw this get posted on the topic list. Like you, similarly to you, Light, I wasn't aware that this was a thing that Bratok had previously organized. Also, I was surprised to see that it's Brat Space Ock and not having it smushed together.
True.
It's Brat _Ock.
Interesting. It also could be that they just don't allow, like, underscores in the Wikipedia for the titles, but yeah, it's fine. But yeah, we did have another 2v2 event here, and we had the same duo, Shameless and GG Machine. They had a decent performance in the Wardy event, and they took it all here in the Bratok event.
Yeah, this one was a little bit more of a CIS region, or a little bit more CIS region focused, and like I said, it's clearly Shameless and GG Machine are two of the stronger. Individually, they're definitely amongst the stronger players in this particular bracket, but also together, it seems like they have some pretty good cohesion.
Yeah, and if this event continues, I mean, hopefully this shines a light on it as well. As you mentioned, it does seem a little bit more region focused, but I think the event is open to all players. It might just be that, it wasn't really shared, like, publicly too much, so then maybe if other people see it, maybe they're willing to get involved, and we could see this event grow a little bit more as well, which would be exciting.
Yeah, it's pretty nice to have a couple of these team game tournaments coming down the line. Just add a little variety to the competitive scene.
For sure. When it comes to the team ups here, I wonder who. I'm just having a look at who teamed up. UD Soldier and Nikic. Interesting that they would join forces. UD Soldier and Nikic. They've been quite active players, but curious to see them join forces. Likewise, I'm not too familiar with Def Mars. I've seen him pop up from time to time. But Def Mars joining up with Gref. Those must have been some cheesy as hell games. I don't know if you remember, but Gref,
Yes.
he only cannon rushes. That's all he does,
Yep.
at least.
And it's fitting, you know. Double Protoss, double Cannon Rush.
I'm pretty sure that's what they were doing. Like, I would not be surprised if their series were like very short, like 10-15 minute series, and they did nothing but Cannon Rush. I'm very tempted to check out the VODs. So again, shout out to Bratok for hosting this event, and it's terrifying to just think of that, just double Cannon Rushes in 2v2.
Yo, when we get the 4v4 tournament, the inevitable 4v4 tournament, because that's where we're heading, we know what the dream team's gonna be. Gref,
That would be
Jeff Mars, Turkey Dano if he's not retired. I'm pretty sure he never made an official retirement, but
true. Boanan, that's the other Cannon
believe.
Rusher.
Yep. There we go.
Just have them. I'm trying, like, even that sounds interesting, right? Because you could probably like pair them off, and you can probably like kind of rush 2 players at a time, and then you have the other 2 like forced to respond and forced to help a goal in or something. I don't know, some crazy stuff can go on there. So yeah, interesting dynamic.
I like the idea
sure.
that you're putting in there. You stagger the cannon rushes. First you have
Yeah.
one cannon rush, then they think they dealt with it, but then you have a second one, and then they think they dealt with
Exactly.
that, but then you have a third, and it just
The
keeps
potential
going.
quad.
By the time the
quad
fourth
cannon
player,
rush.
yeah, by the time the 4th player has finished getting cleaned up, then the 1st player has recovered, and then they're back into cannon rush.
Oh god.
It's gonna pummel them.
That sounds terrifying, but regardless, GG will play to Shameless and GG Machine for coming out on top there. Weren't quite able to take it in the Wardy event, but at least here in the Black Duck event, came out on top.
Yeah. That's what we will colloquially be referring to them, but yeah, there is a reason why, of course, we did have a couple of more team game events going on this week, and that is, of course, because, or at least partially, it might not be directly related, but I'm sure it's correlated regardless. We actually have the results, or some of the results, of the Team Liquid map contest, specifically the team game edition.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we mentioned before that Wardy was hosting the tournament to showcase these maps earlier, like last month, and now the event has concluded. TLMC has rounded up or has wrapped up, and yeah, really cool to see that they even brought this all together. Shout out to Monster Energy, of course, for sponsoring the event, and yeah, really cool to see the team maps get some love.
Yeah. We got a whole bunch of winners. I believe 5. Yeah, 5 winners for each mode. 2v2, 3v3, and 4v4. And specifically in this article, we've decided to, or Team Liquid has decided to highlight the runner-up and grand prize first place winners of each of these game modes.
Yeah. So we had the Music 246 actually got first and second place for 2v2, which is impressive. I don't know how
as
often
well as
that's
first
happened
place
before.
for 4v4.
Oh my god. So he's been shout out to the Music. I'm a little bit more familiar with some of the older map makers, so I'm not too familiar with this one, so really exciting to see maybe a newer face. But for 2v2 they got Rohana, which Rohana does not mean family, Yellow Jacket as well, and as you mentioned, did also get a 4th place prize as well.
I gotta tell you, Yellow Jacket hurts my eyes looking at it. It's just so yellow. It's so bright.
It does like attack the eyes a little bit.
Yeah.
Rohana looks pleasant, but yeah.
Yeah. I was going to dispute you on the Music being a new face, because I vaguely remembered his name coming up a couple of times in the previous Team Liquid map contest, but yeah, looking at I'm just going over his profile on Liquipedia right now. It does look like, despite being pretty active in TLMC, only 5 of his maps were introduced to the 1v1 ladder map pool. So we're 16-bit being the first, and I believe 2000 Atmospheres being the most recent.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wait, is Triton
yeah.
older than 16-bit? I don't quite remember.
They're around the same era, definitely. But yeah, I guess that's more of the quote unquote modern era of StarCraft. That's like 2019, 2020-ish era of StarCraft. So yeah, really cool to see that he, was able to showcase not just his 1v1 map making skills, but also his 2v2 ones. So he was able to make those, at least for the 2v2 maps. Meanwhile, we have Mavis and Volumen getting their second and first place maps in 3v3. Veracity and Prodigy. We also had Killer Smile and the Music getting their second and first place for 4v4. Unlimited Alchemist and Riptide for those 2 maps.
Unlimited Alchemist is the most fitting name that I can think of, a map that is just assaults you with nothing but bright and vibrant pink and purple. It's brilliant. It literally looks like a broken flask.
It's
if you imagine like any RPG game or like fantasy setting, cartoon or animated anything.
The pink on Unlimited Alchemist is insanely bright. It's just neon pink. I don't think we've had a map quite that bright or quite that shade of pink before. I know we've had like black pink in the past and stuff like that, but that was always like a darker shade.
Yeah, or at least contrast it with something that was very dark. So it wasn't quite as attacking or assaulting.
Yeah. Not as much as this one. But yeah, I mean,
those are things that can always be toned down later down the line.
For sure. And especially with the most recent update to the team maps, which was a couple of months ago at this point, I'm pretty sure ESL are definitely interested in continuing that as well. So this might be a little bit telling of that, and these maps might be incorporated into the new 2v2 or team game ladder map pool. There's no confirmation on that, and the reality is that when it comes to maps added to the map pool, even for 1v1, it isn't always the top maps. Sometimes the reality is like the top 2 don't get added, and then they add like maybe a top 8 or a top 15 map instead. So it's still at the discretion of ESL, but it's
because
they like.
Because fun fact, the judges of Team Liquid Map Contest are not the same people who decide who gets to put who is in charge of the ladder map pool.
Yeah. I mean, especially with this ladder map pool, right? Like the current one, there's not that many standard maps. So like if a bunch of standard maps, for example, get a higher place in TLMC, and if ESL want to spice things up, then they're gonna look elsewhere, right? So it's not always a 1-to-1, but there's a high chance that these maps will be added. I hope at least.
I hope at least Unlimited Alchemist does, because chat brings up a really good point. That is the Babylings map.
True. True. So definitely looking forward to that. Meanwhile, we have, of course, before we get into the other 1v1 events, we have the StarCraft Evolution League number 2. We were able to cover this as well over on our channel, as we typically do. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had an interesting performance this time. Once again, high signups for the SE Evolution League. And this time, Shin was able to take it all. Able to make it through his previous opponent that knocked him out in Hon Mono in the previous edition, and it was looking quite strong and quite dominant in the finals.
He came back with a vengeance against Hon Mono. As it usually does. You lose to Hon Mono once, you just dedicate the rest of your life to hunting him down.
100%. So Shin, this time he didn't get all in. For those that are curious, in the first edition of this tournament, Homono knocked Shin out in the quarterfinals by going for all ins and cheesing him out. Shin did recover this time, and yeah, able to take it all.
Looks like he also streamed his POV.
Oh yeah, so he did end up streaming. Yeah, he streamed his POV, which was a lot of fun. For those that are curious how this format works, StarCraft Evolution is a mod that does incorporate or does kind of, in a way, bring Brood War into StarCraft 2. It does make some changes, does make some adjustments, does make some balance changes to the Brood War races, but it does pit Brood War races against StarCraft 2 races, head-to-head.
Yeah. It will never be Brood War v Brood War. It will never be StarCraft 2 v StarCraft 2. I guess technically in the mod, if you wanted to do that, you could. I mean, I don't know why you would, though. I mean, that feels like that kind of defeats the purpose. But for the rules of the tournament, it is always Brood War versus StarCraft 2 or StarCraft 2 versus Brood War.
For sure. 3-Point was the reigning champion, so there was a lot of hype around 3-Point coming into this. And I mean, hey, he made it all the way to the grand finals, but Shin was looking a lot more dominant this time. Like, we were finally able to cast a lot more Shin in this, and Shin clearly has been putting in a lot of work into his Brood War Zerg as well as his SE2 Zerg. And even though as great as 3-Point is, like, it was a little bit more one-sided between the two players, it was very impressive to see Shin coming into his own. And this is kind of what we were expecting because Shin, of course, he is one of the best SE2 players. And we're going to be speaking a lot about Shin this week when it comes to SE2 tournaments. But yeah, it's even more impressive that he's able to dedicate time outside of SE2 and something else and excel there as well.
Yeah, outside of SE2, outside of content creation, outside of putting subtitles into other Korean players' videos, he's still able to dedicate a little bit of time to study a bit more of not just Brood War Zerg, but specifically Brood War Zerg in the StarCraft 2 engine and how that how that all works.
For sure.
I think. Yep. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, my only disappointment when covering this event, we focused mainly on the upper half of the bracket. I really wanted to cast Skillus. That's I don't know if you noticed, but Skillus also signed up. Yeah, and I was very surprised to see him sign up as well. And I was really curious to see how he would play, and if he was familiar with the Brood War aspect at all. I wasn't able to see any of his games.
Unfortunate. But I'm hoping that some of the other casters did cover that side of the bracket at the very least. And I believe Skillus v Rebellion was casted by someone.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. So hopefully that was covered by either Nihed or Bomyoja as well, or maybe even Top. Shout out to Top, of course. Top, I'm pretty sure Top is also one of the main sponsors. Yeah, Kiwian, one of the main sponsors for the event as well, casting in Korean. We had Enki in Spanish, Indian Polish, and Cyan in Brazilian as well, or in Portuguese. So yeah, a lot of coverage, a lot of interest in this event.
Yeah, I'm actually curious now that I think about it, because you've had those stories, right, of apparently a lot of Brood War pros back in the day. A lot of them who played Terran eventually went on, and when they played StarCraft 2, they switched to Protoss because they felt that it was a little bit more familiar to Brood War Terran. I mean, that was the case of Classic, right? He played Terran in Brood War and then played one season of, I believe, Pro League as Terran in StarCraft 2, but then decided, oh yeah, no, Protoss is way better, or Protoss is much more fitting for my style in StarCraft 2. And even Flash at one point said that he straight up prefers playing Protoss in StarCraft 2, but only chose to continue playing Terran competitively because he felt obligated to. So I have to wonder, is there race switch? I would have to wonder what the rules around race switching would be in StarCraft 2 Evo.
So it's a little bit restricted. Basically, you pick one race for playing SE2, and you pick one race for Brood War. So it can be they can be different from each other. Yeah. So like from game to game, you can't switch from like Brood War Protoss to Brood War Terran to Brood War Zerg, for example. Like you have to stick with one Brood War race. When it comes to some of these key players that do play different races, Mixu plays SE2 Zerg, but he plays Brood War Terran.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, so he plays Brood War Terran. Sayark, he plays SE2 Terran and Brood War Zerg. So he also plays Zerg for Brood War instead. So like there are a couple of interesting kind of dynamics where that there are some players that do mix things up a little bit.
A lot of Terran and Zerg mix-ups going on there. Not necessarily what I would have expected, but obviously this is also played in the StarCraft 2 engine, so...
Yeah. It's very different. I personally, some of the highlights for me covering this event was for the first time I was able to see very commonly whenever we have TVZ, we see mech from Brood War Terran players, but we were able to feature some Brood War Bio versus Zerg. Ooh. And Quanta going like Marine Medic Firebat is so interesting. Like seeing the Firebat be like a key unit, and it's so small but so tanky as well. Like seeing that against Ling Bane and like tanking like 4 Banelings or something is just wild. So it's really fun seeing that kind of dynamic. I mean, they're pretty good. they're pretty good.
I mean, they do bonus damage versus light units, right? And they're armored tags, so
maybe not so much for Banelings, but we saw that against Noxstar. We saw that in Quanta versus Noxstar. We saw that kind of dynamic. Saw something different against 3 points, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. For the ZVZ matchup, we also had some Muta play as well. We got to feature the island map again. What's it called? It's Paradox. It was wild, but we only saw it in the finals, only in the grand finals.
Yeah, and apparently the players just wanted to get that map out of the way immediately. So typically it's what StarCraft 2 map, Brute War map, StarCraft 2 map, Brute War map. I believe is
Yeah, it's not.
how the vetoes go, something like that. But yeah, in this case, they 3 Point Shin just said, nope, let's get the island map out of the way first.
Hmm. Yeah, it was fun. It was funny because we were making the lobbies and we're like, okay, Golden Wolf first, and then both Shin and 3 Point are like, no, we're playing Paradox first, and we're like, okay, sure, okay, what? I guess both players agree. Why not?
Did we see that ever infamous interaction? Because you mentioned Mutas were back in. Did we ever see Mutas versus Scourges?
I was so disappointed. I wanted to see Muta v Scourge on Paradox. I believe, if I remember correctly, I believe Shin went Muta, but 3 Point went for a Nidus all in instead. So I was like, guys,
Okay.
give us the Muta v Muta, give us the Scourge. He went for a Nidus all in. Didn't quite work out. Clearly, as Shin did take it, but yeah, basically, he was going for Nidus Swarms, but Shin had vision all over his island, so the Nidus Swarms never really got up and running.
Yeah.
So
And it also
Shin
helps
played
when you're
well.
going Mutas, right? To chase away overlords or what have you.
True. Yeah, very true. Very true. Yeah, GG Shin does take it in the end. I look forward to seeing more of Shin in the future in these tournaments. 3 Point Mixu. I'm very excited to see Skills again. If Skills plays in the next one, I will try to cast him 100%. I do want to see what Skills has to offer in this format.
Yeah. Especially as one of the younger players, you know. It's a great quote from Scarlet goes, you know, a lot of these younger generation of players, they're like the same age as Root War or even younger. So
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, exactly. So definitely interesting to see like a different perspective or a different take on the game state. But outside of that, congratulations to Shin. Again, he is going to be our most recent champion. And then we can head over to something we're a little bit more familiar with, to the 1v1s, to some OC events.
yes, got a whole bunch of them coming down, but of course, as ever, we're going to be starting with the King of the Hill.
Yeah, this was OC King of the Hill 184. This one was covered by Wardy, not by us. Usually, if Wardy is unavailable, that's where we can step in. But this week, Wardy was covering the OC King of the Hill. And we had some interesting players have some pretty interesting runs here. Nickrak starting off as, I believe, the reigning King of the Hill, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, going on a bit of a win streak himself to start things off.
Yeah, going on a short little win streak, but I'm getting taken down by Mixu. Very impressive result here from Mixu. Who, in turn, ended up falling to Art. Not Polish Art, the other Art.
Uh-huh.
Who went on a little bit of a win streak himself, taking out Mio Micah, but then falling to Quanta. And then it Quanta himself falling to Moja. But then we had the Reign of Terror of Mana.
Yeah, so we didn't really have any massive win streaks this time. There's potential for like a player to go on a massive kill streak and get like 10 plus wins in a row. But here we were alternating a little bit more. Again, you know, which is always exciting. It shows like how competitive a lot of these players are. I'm impressed that Moja was able to bring down Quanta. Like that's a pretty big win for him. But what was interesting to me is that usually whenever Bjorn shows up, he wraps it up. You know, he takes one win and he just doesn't stop from there. This week that was not the case.
Yeah, I have I have a narrative to spin.
Okay, go on.
Mana, he beat Moja, and then he went on a short little streak himself, and Bjorn, his Protoss senses tingled. His Protoss's winning senses tingled, and he said, I have to put a stop to this. He showed up, he beat Mana, he saw that his next opponent was Spirit, and he said, alright, go ahead. I'm passing the torch over to you. Do me proud. And Spirit did do him proud, taking out Christiana, and then Galsor, who is a American Zerg player I'm not too familiar with, but ending off the night by also taking out Geralt.
Gosu user.
What?
Yeah, he's an old school player from back in like Wings of Liberty. Like it's been a long time since he competed, but it's really cool to see him return. I think he was playing in last week's OC King of the Hill as well. It was posted recently that he was like being active in Twitch chats once again, and yeah, this is his first time competing in many years. So it's really cool to see him active again. He's still not quite at the level that he once was, but he's still a player that I'm keeping my eye on to see, you know, if he does dedicate again to improving and competing, or if he's just here just for fun.
Ah, interesting. So this was before my time.
Oh yeah, he's very old school. Very old school.
I see. Well, always nice to see some old school players coming back. I, once again, as ever, live for the day that, especially Terran players who I can steal builds from.
I'm
Old
sure
school
they'll come
builds
back.
from, but one day Fury will return and not be
One
playing
day.
Protoss.
Copium. So yeah, shout out to Spirit for having a very impressive performance. Like he brought down Geralt, Cristiano, and Bjorn, so 3 very strong players. As a reminder to all those that are curious, these are best of ones, so it's a best of one style format, King of the Hill. So yeah, not your standard kind of tournament format, which allows for upsets, which is how someone like Bjorn can be knocked out so quickly as well. So yeah, shout out to Spirit for becoming the King of the Hill.
Yeah. Sometimes the player does get revived. Like in this week, Mio Micah faced off against both Art and Mana, but yeah, that's usually only if they can't fill out the full bracket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just if they're missing a player or if they have a little bit of downtime. So yeah, really exciting event there. Meanwhile, scrolling over, we do have the OC mid-season playoffs. We covered day 1 and day 2, but day 3 was covered by Just Jordan instead. And it looks like Just Jordan was just wrapping up the upper half of the bracket. Most of round 2 has already concluded. And we had fun in that series. I haven't been able to see it yet, but Shin faced off against 4Jumi, and Shin did take down Jumi 2-0.
Oof, unfortunate there. For Jumi, yeah, so Shin's going to be moving on to face either Mio Micah, Baby Marine, or Max Packs, according to Challenge.
Yes, that's a big win for Shin. If you remember, we were interested to see how Jimmy would fare against Shin because he took down DRG. Took down DRG in the first round to make it to Shin. But the last Shin has been looking very dominant, as we were alluding to earlier. So Shin is definitely on fire as of late. So it was a very tough opponent for Jimmy. Scrolling down, we had some other matches ongoing as well. Any... Yeah.
You're about to ask if there were any matches that catch my eye. One of them, yes.
Oh, which one?
Round 3 right at the bottom. Cham and Han Mono going at it against each other. Cham ended up taking the victory 2-1, but those are 2 players who don't usually play against each other too often, but I always have imagined that would be an insane series to witness. Just the sheer chaos of seeing the 2 of them.
That would have been an amazing series. Again, Cham up against any of these like European or Southeast Asian or Korean players is always a lot of fun just because he rarely moves out of his own comfort zone. So yeah, I am envious that series did occur, and I do want to check out the VODs for that. Likewise, Sham against any of his other opponents would be a lot of fun as well, either Shameless or Amano or Milky Cow. Still no elimination matches have been played, so still no one has been eliminated. Everyone is still in the tournament, thankfully. But the elimination matches they might start getting underway soon in the coming weeks.
Yeah, slowly but surely. As again, this is typically these matches are arranged by, or the scheduling of the matches are arranged by the players themselves. So, yeah, there can be a little bit of a variance. There can be a little bit of a delay every now and then, but it's usually not that big of a deal. Most of the tournament can still progress regardless.
Oh yeah, we mentioned this before, but this event it's gonna be held over the next couple of months. So 1 week is like 7 matches. So there's lots of matches to play out, and it's not going to be finished for at least it'll probably wrap up by the end of the year. So we'll keep you guys posted on any other big updates in this tournament.
Have the grand finale right on New Year's Day. Potentially.
There you go. Potentially. So congratulations to Cham, to Shin, to those that did advance on. Meanwhile, we do have a bunch of show matches that did play out. Now, for the past couple of weeks, I think we were having like some FFA, like Basilisk Big Brain bouts. But I think we're done with that for now. We're going back to some more standard show matches now.
Yeah, last week we did go over the previous, or the 67th edition of Basilisk Big Brains, which was that rather infamous free-for-all, that tourney. But, like you mentioned, we're going back to some of the more regular show matches. We've had the main event, as you can see in the graphic there, being Harsem versus Hero Marine. But before that, also had a couple of opening acts, if you will, featuring some, I would say, lesser-known players. Underrated players as well.
Yeah. I do think that some of these were a little bit mismatched. Draconics and Ryojin, they're big Latin American players, and they were up against Codebar and Gunner respectively. And they were able to have a bit of a stronger showing. I'll be honest,
It
I
was
thought
all.
Draconics. Huh?
Yeah, I was gonna say it was all EU versus Latin America.
True.
Now that I look at it.
True. Yeah, that's an interesting. I mean, except for, I mean, maybe we can adopt like Hero Marine or something. Maybe, maybe he's like Mexican this week or something.
He does have Italian citizenship, if I
True.
remember
True.
correctly.
That's
That's
good
close
enough.
enough. You know, that's close enough. He's like in the same country as Ryu.
Yeah, exactly. He's basically Peruvian, basically. So we can claim him this week. But yeah, that's true. An interesting theme here of Latin America versus Europe. I first thing, I thought Draconics had retired. Like Draconics, he's an old school name. We used to cast him back in the day, back in Sentimiento Latino, back in like 2019. It's a name that I have not seen in a long time. So I'm excited to see that he has returned and is motivated to compete and play. So definitely a player that I'm going to be keeping my eye on for these online open tournaments. Likewise, Ryojin was a heavy favorite against Gunner. Gunner, if you recall, I think he's played in MSO a couple of times and has been improving a lot. But Ryojin has been a lot more active nowadays. He's been playing a lot in events.
I'm improving to the point where I believe Gunner is actually no longer eligible for MSO.
I don't think he is.
He's gotten that good. He's gotten that good.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty good. And then we had Sebestis versus Mute at the end. Mute has been very active as well as of late. He's always playing in ESL Open Cup Americas or nowadays the Ursasaurus Cups and the Tenacious Total Tussles. Mute is a very active player. He's been improving a lot. Mute, I can't remember his name, but Mute is actually an ID change. He used to go by a different name a couple of years ago. Was a more active player, and yeah, after like a long hiatus,
who all the Peruvian Protoss players I remember are.
There's a lot of them. You're not wrong. Yeah. But I remember Mute. He used to go by a different name. I remember I confirmed like asking him a while back. But yeah, it's really cool to see him active once again, and he's been looking pretty strong. Sebestis did take the series, but went all the way to the ace match.
Woo! Czechoslovakia represent.
Here you go. And of course we had the final. So the big show match at the end surprised me. Not gonna lie, Hero Marine and Hearthstone. I would have favored Hero Marine more heavily there, but for that to go all the way to the ace match, that's quite impressive at a Hearthstone. Very impressive.
Yeah, I'm glad that they were able to make a full series out of it as well. I also think that just thematically, this is a fantastic matchup as well. You have the Capital going up against Big Gabe himself. Who is bigger?
Yeah.
The hat?
It was close.
It was close.
In the end, it was Gabe, but just barely. So, yeah, I'm really happy to see Hearthstone be competitive with Gabe, despite Gabe being more of a favorite player there, went all the way to the ace match, so really well done. Do recommend checking out the VODs. Same with all the other matches as well, and yeah, we'll see if they have what their theme is going to be next week. As again, shout out to Rotterdam and Basilisk for hosting this on a very regular basis.
I'm being reminded now that there's also another layer to the theming. It's Big Gabe versus Little Kevin.
True. Yeah. There you go. Little Kev almost did bring him down, but with that, congratulations to Gabe. Congratulations to all the other players that did make it through. Meanwhile, we have the Sunrise Cup up next, number 179. Yes. Again, this is I believe, it's kind of like a pseudo-weekly event that does come by every now and then. Does usually coincide with WTL, and I think you were alluding to this kind of result earlier.
Yes, earlier on when we were mentioning the WardiTV 2v2 tournament, we saw Silky team up with Lemon as opposed to some other players who we thought he would be a bit closer with, some of his former camels, but instead, he chose the winner of this week's Sunrise Cup in Lemon.
Yeah, Lemon, I mean, he's a very strong player nowadays. When it comes to the region of Southeast Asia or China and Taiwan and Hong Kong, Lemon is one of the few that can take maps off of Oliveira. I want to say it was in the most recent season of the regionals where Lemon was actually, posing a threat to Oliveira and looking very strong in the regionals. So really cool to see Lemon continuing that kind of streak of dominance. I'll be honest, I am very unfamiliar with Number. I'm impressed that Number made it to the finals.
Yeah. Okay. Let me click on this link because
Yeah,
it happens all the time with the Chinese
it
players.
does.
They just keep changing their names. Yeah,
They
but it
do.
looks like Number used to go by the name of Phoenix, who I'll be
Mm,
honest is still a name that I'm not super familiar with. They did play
mhm.
in some of the DreamHack Masters Chinese regionals, but yeah, it was a bit more of a whatchamacallit, a bit more of the less favorite players there. So yeah, they have been active for a while, but it just hasn't really broken out.
Yeah, and even with them being active, it's like a little bit more sporadic, right? It's like I'm looking at the Wikipedia as well, where they've
True.
only played in 2 events in 2023, like a handful of events in 2022, and then back in 2020 as well. So not the most active of players, which is why it's really cool to see them taking down Nanami, taking down their other semifinals opponents as well. I'm also quickly checking the Wikipedia page on that. But yeah, definitely not a player that I expected to have a deep run like this. So
Yeah,
I definitely have my eye on Number now.
yeah. That opponent's name in the semifinals is pronounced. I think that's a Wu. The second one.
Uwu?
No, it's not Wu.
Okay.
It's pronounced something.
Okay. It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah,
So,
but just to kind of round off with the Sunrise Cup, I would say that uh, just to touch about Lemon a little bit, you were saying that he's very competitive in WTL. He's one of the few players who can really go toe to toe against Oliveira, especially when the players from the kind of rest of Asia or yeah, just the Asia region overall. I feel like with Rex taking a little bit of a backseat to focus a bit more on content creation. I mean, he's still very competitive. With
mhm.
Nice being a bit more sporadic, with Haas pseudo retiring a little bit, I do feel like the door has opened up now for Lemon to kind of step in
Yeah, now that I
as
think
a
about
top
it,
player from Taiwan.
I mean, this is something that I was actually thinking of a couple of days ago, was not necessarily Lemon being the best player in Taiwan, but the absence of Nice. Nice, he
Hmm.
used to be very active in these online tournaments, whether it's, our open tournaments or open tournaments in general, ESL Open Cup Asia, for example. But in the off season of EPT, Nice, it looks like he has taken a step back. It does seem like he is a little bit less active nowadays. I'm just quickly checking to see, and yeah, according to Wikipedia, his last tournament that he played in was ESL Americas back in August.
Oof. Yeah, so quite a while ago there, and obviously that's a while ago in esports time. I mean, in real life, that was just a month. So
Uh
yeah,
huh.
it's possible that he is just taking a break, but it does definitely feel like Nice has been over throughout 2024, just not as active when it comes to signing up in Open Cup. So I think there's potential here for Lemon. I'm not gonna say that he's gonna be overtaking Rex or Nice, but there is that potential there, especially if he does become proficient in both Terran and Protoss, which
Hmm.
is I believe his goal right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that that Lemon right now is the highest rated active Protoss player
Mhm.
in Taiwan. So yeah, he's kind of rising through the
Definitely the
ranks.
definitely the highest rated Terran player. RIP to
Smooch.
what
Expect.
God, what was this? Expect. There we go.
Hmm. Definitely. When it comes to touching on Nice again, I mean, even though as you mentioned, like it hasn't been that long, I guess it's been like just over a month, but for Nice, like that is a long time without playing
Ah,
because again, he played like in all these online events in
yep.
July, in June, in May as well. So yeah, for Nice to be inactive is definitely something to bring up, and
Cat.
hopefully it is maybe just for the off season. Maybe he comes back to us. We'll see.
Yeah, unfortunately, not by the looks of things. Kashim in the chat confirming to us that Nice has retired, or at least retired from full-time competition.
Oh, okay. Thanks for letting us know, Kashim. So yeah, apparently he made a post on Facebook about it. So yeah, that is a little bit sad to hear. That Nice did announce his retirement. That's what I was worried about.
At
I was
least
definitely
from full-time
concerned.
play,
Mhm.
we might still see him now and then.
Yeah. So we'll keep an eye out for Nice. But thanks for letting us know. I completely missed that. I did not I did not notice. Apparently he announced his retirement, or at least him leaving his team in April, but he was still active leading up to
Mm-hmm.
August. So yeah, interesting to see.
Yeah. He just still had that desire to keep on playing despite that.
Mhm.
Like his brain is telling him that you should. His brain is telling him that the smart choice is to retire, but his gut, his heart, he still wants to compete, man.
Yeah, I definitely have a soft place in my heart for Nice. So hopefully we see him again in the future. If not, I guess we bid Nice farewell, as he
Yeah,
did announce his retirement.
yeah. I do have confirmation though of Number's semifinal opponent. It's pronounced Nanyo.
Oh, Nanyo. Okay, did you put that in Google Translate? It's fine. It's fine.
I did.
Yeah.
Not Wu. I don't know what I was
Mhm.
looking at.
It's fine. So congratulations, Lemon, for winning the Sunrise Cup, and we will hop on over to something a little bit different, an event that's been apparently going on for just over a month, actually, to the Team Gosu Power Rankings number 9.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about last week. We talked about the Hyper One in-house tournament, and yeah, this week it looks like we have a different team's in-house tournament in Team Gosu Power Rankings.
Here we go, and it shouldn't be much of a surprise just because Miyamaika is the highest rated player on the team and he is their ace, and Miyamaika does come out on top. In saying that, though, it was not an easy performance. Quite a number of the other Team Gosu players did take maps and did pose a threat.
Yeah, looking at the group stage, Miyamaika actually lost to a player called Meower Doom.
Mhm.
A player called Meower Doom, which prevented him from getting the top seed there. Looking at the upper bracket finals as well, Reaper took him all the way to the ace match. That was, I'm sure, very intense and very difficult match. And honestly, if not for the forfeit in the lower bracket finals, I think it would have been that would have been a very high chance of a rematch there in the grand finals.
Yeah, unfortunately, Reaper didn't play against Maples. Like, Reaper is a really good Zerg player from the Americas. Would I say the best Zerg player in America?
In the
Hey,
US of A, maybe.
yeah.
If we extend that to if we talk about North America overall, and we're talking about Canada and
Yeah.
Mexico,
Hmm.
then I think there's a lot more competition. There's a lot more competition going on there.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But I think in the Americas, I think he's the highest rated American Zerg player. So, yeah, he could have definitely had a rematch with Miyamaika in the grand finals. So it is a shame that he didn't quite play it out. Likewise, you were pointing it out to the group stage. I'm a little bit shocked that Binsky didn't make it out of the groups. Like, Binsky is another, I would say,
True.
the best Terran player on the team. But looking at the group stage, it looks like Binsky actually didn't play any games. He forfeited every
Oof.
single match. So that
Oh well,
explains why
that explains
Binsky
it.
didn't make it out. Yeah. Feels bad, man. Feels bad.
He forfeited every match except for the one where his opponent forfeited.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, there were some forfeits in the group stage. But regardless, congratulations to Miyamaika, shout out to Maples and Reaper for making it to top 3, Rocker and into top 4. I mean, on paper, as I say those names, those are kind of the top players
Yeah.
on Team Gosu outside of Binsky. So, yeah, that's no major surprises there.
Yeah, Miyamaika, Reaper, Maples, that's about what we'd expect as a top 3.
Mhm. But yeah, really cool to see that they host this and look forward to their next event as well. It's always really cool to see these teams host these like in-house tournaments to help kind of incentivize their players to keep playing. Talking about Nice retiring, I mean, another player in my mind at least was Miyamaika for a while. Like Miyamaika also, he's not as active as he once was, but for the past couple of weeks now, he's been showing up every week for OC King of the Hill. He clearly played in this event as well. So it's cool to see Miyamaika sporadically active. I know nowadays he has like a full-time job. Like nowadays, playing
Yeah, it's like a
StarCraft isn't
business or something.
his.
Like
Yeah,
a
yeah. I think
terrarium business or something like that.
he did have that for a while. He sold some terrariums for a while, but I don't know if that's still what he does.
Something different now. Yeah, it's like
We
I have to imagine the terrarium business is pretty good. Booming.
we have to keep up. We have to catch up with Miyamaika at some point. But yeah, really cool to see he's still competing in this, still playing whenever he can, and good enough to still be the best on Team Gosu.
Yeah. That's a power rank concluded, I suppose.
Yeah, and with that, we have another interesting show match. It looks like the very first edition of the Blood Money battles. Not
A
something that I've heard of
very, yeah.
before.
Yeah, Nora, and I just gotta say, that's a name that I feel has a story attached to it. Like, especially because it's show matches. You say blood money, my mind immediately doesn't go to what the original like meaning of blood money is, which is money from that you stole from someone that you've killed.
Uh-huh.
Instead, it's like I'm thinking like blood match or grudge match. And I'm like,
Yeah,
ooh,
yeah.
how's that going? But the more I think about it, the less it makes sense. But I still want to go for my original meaning because, man, that sounds pretty. That sounds pretty. What should we call it? Dramatic.
Yeah, I mean, some interesting show matches. Bomyoja versus Patches, Lawless versus Heaven. I'm not too familiar with all of these players. I mean, I recognize most of them except for Lawless. I'm not too familiar. But yeah, regardless, really cool to see these show matches held. I don't know what the story is behind it. As you mentioned, I guarantee there is like, a backstory as to why they're playing against each other, whether there's like some beef between them or just like a fun, more,
It
just more fun show match
it's
between friends. Like, yeah.
it's a name that sounds very WWE. Is
Mhm.
probably the best comparison I would have.
Blood money? Yeah,
Blood money.
yeah.
I would hope that before the match began,
Mhm.
the organizers forced the players to trash talk each other.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that I really miss from the, oh my god, what were they called? The Brorio show matches. I don't know if you remember those, but what they would do
Yep.
is you'd have the casters would intentionally pause the game intermittently throughout the show match, and they would drag the players in call and ask them about
Yeah,
what's
I
going on.
remember that.
And they would do it to like troll players. I distinctly remember, like, I think it was Chappie versus Azure, or maybe, yeah, I think it was Chappie versus Azure, where like Chappie would like lose a mineral line to Hellions, and they'd pause the game, they drag him on,
Yeah.
and they'd be like, yeah, how do you feel right now? And then Chappie would be like, he'd be so angry and so upset, and he'd just be talking himself down. And, or like they'd bring Azure on, and they'd be like, "Oh, yeah, how do you feel?" And he's like, "I feel pretty good right
Feels
now."
good,
I,
man. Yeah. You're like,
I just roasted a middle. Like,
they put
I'm
both of
waiting.
them
I'm
in
waiting
the
for.
same call and be like, so sure,
Yeah.
how's it feel? And be like, feels pretty good, man. And Japanese just like seething, just like, I
And then
bet.
just have them trash talk each other, and like it was just, again, it's not meant to be of games, well, because it's a show match, you can have fun with it, and
Yeah.
that's something unique that the Brorios at least did.
Yeah.
A lot of fun, a lot of fun.
It helps if the two players who are competing are very close to each other as well, though. So
True.
that
Yeah.
is something that you need to have happen, and I'm hoping that, and I'm sure that was also the case here with the Blood Money show matches.
hmm Actually, now that I remember, like peak Brorio show matches was
Yep.
before the show match. The two competitors would create a rap. They would
I
record a
remember
rap
that. That was
before. Yeah.
I don't remember if Chase did that. I remember it was Chappie versus I want to say Pez.
He
That was one of them?
he did it against like two or three guys. It was Pez, Azure, and one other as well. Like he did
Right.
make three different raps. Yeah. Uh-huh. And some of them were fire as well. Like like the rhymes and the lyrics were actually really good. Some of them less so. Some of them were a little bit more,
Yeah.
a little bit more questionable, is what I will say. But
Some of them were like, yeah, we can definitely tell that you're straying.
I don't know if I would quite go that far, but yeah, it was a lot of fun nonetheless. A lot of fun. So I'm sure some shenanigans were had here as well. Again, we're not really too familiar with the event itself and the organizer, but there's always potential noise. It's just a lot of fun having these show matches between friends. So yeah, GG. I hope they had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Hoping that we get a lot more to come as well.
For sure. We'll keep an eye out for Din or Dine Common for some future show matches as we do head on over to what comes next, the Super Set.
Yes. And oh man, there might not necessarily be a story attached to this, but I'm going to try to construct one anyway. So we're going to have our first Super Sevens, number 10. It was a TVZ show match between Dark and Byun. And this, I would just say Dark versus Bjorn. I would say one of the original rivalries in Legacy of the Void. And that was the
Mhm.
very first BlizzCon finals was Dark versus Bjorn. They faced each other a lot in the years to come and have always kind of traded back and forth. But there's a little bit of a shall we say stake here for Dark specifically, because I believe Talon Esports has recently announced that Dark by the end of the year will be going to the military, so most likely this is going to be overall just a final match or show match that he plays in general. And in this, he did get the 4-0 against Bjorn, which if you'll remember, a couple of years ago in, I want to say the Ballistics Brawl, either the Ballistics Brawl or the BJ, whatchamacallit, show match, it was the exact opposite. Bjorn, in his final match before going to the military, got a 4-0 versus Dark.
Yeah, and that could be a sign. I thought you were gonna go a different route with that. I do think there's a bit of a bit of backstory, a little bit of a grudge match here between these two, because if you remember, last week, the finals of KSL,
Yes, that was also
where
another one.
yeah, it was Dark versus Bjorn, and Bjorn did take it. But if you remember, Dark, he had no internet. He had to go over to a PC cafe. He had to forfeit one of the games as well because it took so long. Like, it was just such a sad way to end the tournament because Dark had done so well making it that far, and it was a bit of a blowout. You could definitely tell that Dark, he was not playing comfortably in those matches against Bjorn. And then here, a week later, here comes a show match, and Dark's like, yo, let's play. This time I've got my PC, I've got my internet. This time I'm back at home. This time I can actually play some StarCraft. And he 4-0s
I got my ruler
Bjorn.
out. I measured everything. It's a full 4-0.
Exactly. So Dark showing that, hey, look, you may have beat me in KSL, but that's because I couldn't even really play the game, mate. Okay, I couldn't even try it. And this, like, a 4-0 is quite a statement here by Dark.
He took the leg weights off.
Especially considering, I mean, this is after KSL. This is after the Bjorn week, right? This is after last week where Bjorn was winning everything.
Yeah. This was, what was it, on Monday? Yeah, it took place on Monday, which was just at the end of the week of Bjorn, where Bjorn was just winning everything, like you were mentioning. So it kind of felt like it was the start of the end of the week of Bjorn. I say that as the beginning of the end of the week of Bjorn, which took place after the week ended.
There you go. Yeah. We'll see.
And, when the week ends, it's over.
The weekends.
The weekends. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the end of the week.
It's the end of the week.
There you go. But yeah, with really that, congratulations to Dark. Yeah, it does get the 4-0. Again, if you want to tune into some of these matches, it's they're held over on the Super platform, Super Live, I believe, casted by, I believe, Laughing Games. So you can check that out. And we also had a couple of days later the Super 7th 11th show match.
Oh, the Super 7-11. Here we go. Very fitting competitors as well.
The casters better have spoken about that. I'm telling you right now, there better have been some 7-Eleven jokes made, okay? And they better have been drinking some slushies, live on cam as well. Everything 7-Eleven.
Slurpees.
There you go. Slurpees.
There you go. So you've never been to a 7-Eleven?
I have not in a very long time.
Yeah, then again, in Australia, that's the land of, whatchamacallit, IGA.
True. Woolworths. Woolworths. Yeah.
The land of Woolworths.
Yeah, there you go. You got there.
And trying to recall everything I know about Australian culture from Super Rock videos. That I learned from YouTubers.
You got there. It's all good. But yeah, we did have the Super 7-Eleven this week.
There we go.
Hey, yeah, servos. And this time it was a little bit more back and forth, but I'm actually surprised by this result. We're talking about some players being a little bit more inactive nowadays, and it is this off season as well. And in my mind, Creator was one of those players as well. Creator, he hasn't been as active these past couple of weeks, as active as Bjorn or Shin, for example, or Dark. So I was a little bit concerned, and Creator does often take some time off and vacation to Japan every couple of weeks, for example. But he came in swinging here.
Every couple of weeks, he just goes to Japan.
He does. He just goes for like a weekend.
Dang.
It's like when you go to Indonesia. Like, yeah.
Oh, it's that cheap, huh?
I don't know.
He just
I don't
hangs, he
know
just
if
hangs
it
with
is.
Honmono, so I guess they are pretty close by, Korea and Japan.
True.
That's how Honmono is
Yeah.
able to represent both.
Exactly.
But yeah, I definitely do agree with you there. It did feel like ever since the most recent GSL, when Creator was knocked out of that, he had no more chance to qualify for the Esports World Cup. I do believe that that's generally when his break began, and he hasn't really come back since. But I mean, this is definitely a way to make a bit of a re-debut, coming in and defeating Cure, who might not have been active in online events, but that's specifically because he was preparing for the Esports World Cup, and once the World Cup ended, he just kind of, not to the same extent, but has kind of resumed participating in some of these online events, things like KSL and what have you. So for Creator to make a little bit of a re-debut and take out one of the more how should I describe Cure? One of the better Terran players in Korea, and also definitely one of the more active ones.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that Cure's like right now, he's very much so in form, right? If you remember, it wasn't just EWC, but WTL, right? WTL right after, like we saw him supporting Clem, right? Like in those playoffs of World Team League. I would say that Cure's in form. He's one of the best Terrans in the world right now, which is why it's that much more impressive to see Creator make his return and to take down Cure 4-2. I mean, that's not easy at all. So really impressive stuff there at the Creator. Again, it bodes well for the future of Creator and of course the future of Cure as well. But yeah, really exciting to see Creator coming out swinging here and coming out on top.
Yeah, I'll always cheer for Creator. I as well am just waiting for him to make that big championship run. It's coming soon. Fingers crossed.
Oh yeah. Big Creator fans, and with that we can now enter the open tournaments.
Before we move on, I want to point something out. In fact, the Super Sevens, the show matches, are casted by a variety of casters, and it's like a different caster every show match, I believe. I don't know how exactly the rotation works. So for example, the number 10, so Dark vs Beyond, was casted by Kozan, while the 11 was casted by Azilis.
Oh, Lady Azilis from way back in the Proxy Tempest days.
That's good. Yeah, if you remember, number 9 was casted by Acontistes. That's it. Basically a bunch of the like Alpha X casters. A bunch of the Alpha X casters. So it's really cool to see that they're still, bringing together content for the Super Show matches. Again, Azilis and Kozan, we have some ties with them from times gone by.
And Azilis, I have faith. I'm sure she whipped out the 7-Eleven pun.
Sure.
She's hung around with Steel Mold too much.
100%. He has done the damage. As we're getting into our open, we love you, Steel Mold. We love you.
The brain damage.
I was gonna. It's fine. We can move on. But we can get into our open tournaments. To kick things off, we have the CSO number 74 here. Again, it is an open tournament, more favored towards the European time slot in the European region. And in this event, we actually had an absence of the typical Polish Protoss representation. So we were able to have some other kind of finals. Yeah.
A finals without Protoss in an EU Open Cup?
What? That's actually insane. That's great. I've never seen a ZVZ finals in an EU Open Cup. That's wild. Like what happened? What's going on?
They were terrified. They were terrified that Björn was going to show up. He didn't, but just the possibility of that happening.
Yeah, that's actually pretty crazy. Of course, there is a chance that maybe Eva did play Protoss. It is possible that Eva did off races Protoss. But I want to believe that it was a ZVZ, and Yeah, it's really cool to see. Of course, Nikish should come out on top. Nikish has been improving quite a lot. It was not easy. It took down Mixu and Iba, really flexing a ZVZ here, and I mean went all the way to the ace match as well. So
Yeah.
Iba putting on quite a good finals against Nikish.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you there. I mean, it is possible that Eva off-raced every now and then, but I doubt it. Yeah,
Mhm.
I doubt it. I want to believe that he did still play ZVZ in the finals and played his main race against Rostock and Replicant.
Mhm.
And this is a. I just want to reiterate what you said. I too am surprised with how close this was, just because I do typically rate Nikic quite a bit higher than Iba. In my mind,
Mhm.
Iba, he is always improving, but he's always that, still that. He's won Epic Land, I think, like twice at this point, but in my mind, he's still this up and comer. Whereas Nikic, I think, is a little bit more established.
Yeah, and I just looked it up. I just checked. There's never been a ZVZ finals in the history of the CSO Cup. So there's been
There we go.
74 of these. This is the first time this has happened. It might be the only time it's happened. It will ever happen as well. So a bit of a historic moment here for the CSO Cups.
Gotta cherish it while we can.
Exactly. Cherish it. So congratulations to Nikic. As you mentioned, shout out to Iba because I agree. I do think that Iba's more of like a next generation player who's still kind of rising through the ranks. So very impressive that he was able to bring Nikic to the ace match, something that Mixu wasn't quite able to do, or at least Art was previously in the quarterfinals. But yeah, really impressive stuff there at the Iba. Hope to see some more Iba in the upcoming weeks as well. As long as he can wake up in time for these tournaments, he'll be there.
Yeah. Wake up in time, have some tomatoes ready for sustenance,
Mhm.
and he's good to go.
There you go. So shout out to Iba, Nikic, and Mixu as well for again the top three, as top three do get paid out for the CSO Cups. Scrolling down, we do have another event, an event that is a bit of a newer event here, hosted by Take TV.
Yeah, another event which technically had a lot of protoss, but not really, and we can get into that a little bit. It's the Verksliga StarCraft
Ah,
2 Community Cup. That's okay. That is. I know Liga is league.
yeah.
I don't remember what Verks is. It's not work. That's something else.
Okay.
That's work is something else entirely in German. It's
Mhm. For those that are curious, Yaku is Mr. Worldwide. He does know a couple of words here and there of German, of Polish, of really any language in the world, and he's there. He's there for us whenever we need him. He got Liga at least. I mean, you pronounce it better than I could have, 100%.
La Liga. It
Let's
escapes
go.
me. The problem is work is not in my English vocabulary, so I
Mhm.
don't learn it in other languages either.
It's all good. It's all good.
It
But yeah,
escapes me in the other languages either.
this is a bi-weekly tournament hosted by Take TV, and it is open. It is open to all players, all shapes, all sizes. Is once again a little bit more European focus. And as you mentioned, even though we had a lot of typically Protoss players in this tournament, we had a lot of off racing going on instead.
Yeah, shout out to Forjumi, who apparently played random against his Terran opponent in Regal, and then in the semifinals as well, Forjumi off-racing as Terran against Christianer, who off-raced as Zerg.
Yeah, that's gonna be boosting up Jimmy's ego quite a bit because
100%.
I've casted Jimmy beat Cristiano with Zerg before in OC King of the Hill, where Jimmy just 12 full drone pulled Cristiano and just cheese him the hell out. And now for Jimmy to play Terran and to defeat Cristiano Zerg, like Jimmy, I could already see I can see the smiles already at this point. So
Hell
congratulations
yeah.
to Jimmy for coming out on top. And more importantly, taking down Nickrat 3-0 in the finals. Very impressive.
Yeah, especially since that is both of them playing their main races as well. Nicaragua, very imposing, a very I would say intimidating Terran opponent. Very active when it comes to the EU scene. If the top four in EU Terrans are Clem, Spirit, Hero Marine, and name escapes me. Like Nicorect, definitely still in just outside that top tier of EU Terran players as well. And as for Jumi to not only beat him but also make it a clean sweep, that is very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, considering that Nicorect 2-0'd Geralt, like, again, that goes to show, like, how good of a player Nicorect is right now,
Yeah.
where he can contest against Geralt and Christiana and the other top European Protosses. So for Jumi to take that win, I mean, we've been talking about it over the past couple of podcasts now, about how Jumi has been getting better and better results. We were, like, kind of praising him for his result against DRG in OSC mid-season playoffs and in these other online tournaments, and here as well, like, to 3-0 Nicorect, like, again, for Jumi, he's just getting better and better results as of late. Yeah, really interesting to see his rise over the past couple of weeks and over the past couple of months.
Shout out to the Jumi Bears everywhere.
Yeah. Shout out to Jumi. Scrolling down, we do have the second edition of a tournament that we debuted last week, the second edition of the King of the North.
Indeed. This time, fewer signups this time, unfortunately, but it did end up resulting with the same champion, Christiana, going to be defending his throne and continuing to be the King of the North for at least another week.
Yeah, so there were other players for those semifinals, but walkovers were given. This is kind of a bit of a criticism that we had last time, if you remember, which may have led to some of those forfeits, is that it is a finals best of 7 and semifinals best of 5, with both semis casted. So if there's that many matches going on, it's possible that maybe because of that format that they did decide to step away, or maybe not. Maybe they just weren't available. Not too certain, but unfortunately, the semifinals weren't quite played out. But the finals was, and it was a full best of 7.
Yeah, full best of 7, and it's a bit of a different matchup, but yeah, Christiana did face Geralt last week in the King of the North, not in the finals, but in the semifinals, and he beat him then, and this time was able to beat him again.
Yeah. Continuing that rivalry, we spoke about it. Christiana and Geralt, they are two of some of the best Protoss players, not just in Poland, but also in Europe. So they face off quite often. Christiana, we do give him a slight edge over Geralt, but they do go back and forth. And at least it wasn't, a clean sweep. It wasn't a Dark versus Björn. It was more competitive than that.
Yeah. Indeed. So, yeah, it looks like a bit of a slow start to that tournament, but definitely a bit more of an exciting finals going on.
Yeah, definitely. As we get into the rest of the online Open Cups, we have Sparkling Tuna Cup this week, which of course we did cover on our channel. Also, very quickly, for the previous event that was covered by, was it Valhalla? No, Sizestorm Viking. That's
Viking, yeah. I almost said hiking, which
it.
I think is I think it's a bit of a Freudian slip on my end, a little bit revealing of what I'm thinking.
True. But we did have our Sparkling Tuna Cup this week, and something that was really exciting for us here on the CranKy Ducklings is the reigning champion was Björn. Björn, we were talking about the Björn week, right? How he was playing in everything. Björn was not here because, if you recall, Björn was actually playing his show match against Dark at the same time that this event was going on. So Björn could not play in both at the same time. That's why Björn was absent. And instead, we had the debut of Shin and Trap in Sparkling Tuna Cup.
Indeed, as well as Gemini, apparently.
True. Yes, true.
Which, if Trap plays in something, Gemini's not too far behind.
Yeah. He needs his cheerleader. He's there for him. 100%.
But yeah, it's really cool to see Trap and Shin making their debut in our tournaments, and for Trap specifically to make that royal road, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Actually taking out Christiana, who was, I would say, been the dominant force in Sparkling Tuna Cup in these past couple of months.
Yeah, I mean, going in depth into some of these matches, even though on paper it looks like Trap kind of bruised his way up until the finals, Trap versus Christiana was very close. Those are some very close PvPs. We had some all-ins. We had some aggressive play. Game 2, if I remember, if I remember, was I believe on Ghost River. That was also very close, where it was a lot more passive. Both players built up, but game one wasn't all in. Game one was a proxy, which also Trap barely survived. Game two was Cristiano building up, getting up to 4 bases. Trap as well. Cristiano, he was up like 20-30 supply. He had a booming economy behind it. Like, he went in for the kill, and we had some very impressive defensive play out of Trap, despite being down in supply, despite being down in many other aspects. Was able to just, you know, play very carefully, play very safe, able to overcome and eventually overwhelm Cristiano. It was just a very close PvP, which could have gone either way. I remember Cristiano afterwards, after that game, he was like, "What just happened?" he was like, "How did I lose? Like, what's going on?" He was a little bit in awe.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like Trap, or Trap's typical play. To be fair, very careful, very meticulous kind of defensive style, until he can eventually walk across the map. So I'm curious as to how that dynamic worked out against Shin, who is the epitome of chaos in at least the current era of StarCraft 2.
Yeah, Shin's an animal. He's
Yeah.
he's an absolute animal, and yeah, he was hyper aggressive against Trap as well. Trap meanwhile was able to weather the storm in more ways than one. Similarly to how he played against Cristiano, in a way, he was also playing very carefully, very defensive. Was able to keep up and shut Shin down, you know, throughout the course of that series. So yeah, just really impressive performance out of Trap, and yeah, it was his first time playing as well, and. I want to believe that, especially if Trap signed up for this, and Trap was also signing up for some of last week's other tournaments, Trap, he might be using that sign up link.
I keep telling you guys, yeah. It's a Kuro sign up list that you too can take a look at if you're interested in some of these open tournaments to sign up for.
For sure. That's, or Gemini told Trap. It's possible. It's possible Gemini
so what
just
you're
told
saying
him
is
to
Gemini looked at the list and then told Trap about it.
Exactly. Gemini's like Trap's like personal like agent or manager, and letting him know whenever there's an event going on. It's very, very likely, but yeah, congratulations to Trap as he was able to walk that royal road. It was his first STC, and hey, he won it. Congratulations.
Use the sparkling tuna for at least a week.
There you go. Thereafter, we had the Tenacious Turtle Tussle, and we had the return of two big names. Byun, of course, was the reigning champion last week. If you remember, he was unable to play in STC because of the show match, and I was fully expecting a rematch between Byun and Shin in the finals, and that did not happen here in the Turtle Tussle.
No, it did not. Trigger coming out here, taking out Shin in those semifinals. Not just taking him out, but taking him out 2-0 to face Byun in those grand finals. Whew. Fantastic result here.
Yeah, it was crazy. So Shin, he has a very unique build that he's been flexing, and he did it here against Trigger on Dynasty. I don't know if you remember this. I'm sure Kuro remembers. But it is, I think you may have casted some of it as well during the Wardy events, but it's Shin with the Spine Rush.
On Dynasty? Yeah, on Dynasty, taking your opponent's gold base.
Yes.
Specifically in ZVP, and then going for the Spine Rush.
Exactly.
And
I think we casted Shin do it against Max.
I remember you were telling me specifically you have never seen it work. But Shin still does it regardless.
And he also did it here against Trigger. And to be fair, against Trigger, it did damage. It did a lot of damage. Like, Shin was in a decent position, but Trigger, he was able to just turtle, back off, stabilize on 2-3 bases and overcome anyway. Like, this was a very, very different kind of Trigger that I've seen in a long time. For those that are curious, Trigger currently is still in Korea. He went to Korea to boot camp, and he's actually still there.
Yeah, he was the first to arrive, and god damn it, he's going to be the last to leave.
Yeah, not wrong. So this is all done on even ping. Bear that in mind with Trigger, Shin, and Byun. And yeah, Trigger looked very impressive against Shin, like better than he has in quite some time. So I was very impressed with Trigger's performance. Did cause an upset, did deny the rematch finals, and went up against Byun. And here against Byun as well, like, it wasn't one-sided. Even some of these games that Trigger did lose were still quite close against Byun. Did go the way of Byun in the end. Byun, he's got his own vendetta against Protoss, right? I mean, that's been the the
And he
narrative for a
faced
couple of
almost
weeks now.
nothing but Protoss. Yeah, he pretty much
Yeah.
faced nothing but Protoss in this tournament.
Bjorn,
I wonder if
he's been
that
improving.
whets his appetite or if he's satisfied with all these Protoss kills.
That's the thing, right? Like Bjorn, he knocked out Protoss and OC King of the Hill this week, and now here he knocked out Xingming, Geralt, and Trigger as well. So, yeah, Bjorn, his TVP's been looking really solid as of late, and yeah, I mean, no surprise here that he's going to be once again the champion. But a shout out to Trigger for posing a threat, and especially because Trigger is staying in Korea and still in Korea, I'm hoping to see him more active here in these tournaments, whether it's the WardiTV Mondays, the Turtle Tussle, the STC. I'm looking forward to more of Trigger. Looking forward to it.
As am I.
As with that, we can then embrace the event that we casted together, the WardiTV Monday.
Yeah, a tournament which was, at least on our end, from what we were able to cast, pure just upset after upset after chaos after upset. This was... I gotta tell you, I'm still not over those finals. I remember waking up the next day and being like, who won last night? Oh yeah, it was MaxPax, right? That makes sense. And I was like, no, wait, actually...
Yeah, there we go. We did have those finals, of course. Or leading into it, we had Clem looking. I think we coming into it, we just assumed it was going to be Clem versus MaxPax, right? It's like, oh
Yeah.
look, it's like NeoCell Americas or NeoCell Europe. Like, it's going to be Clem and MaxPax in the grand finals, and Shin says no.
I was just gonna say I had a Clem MaxPax or Clem Bjorn, looking at how the bracket was formed.
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of what we expected, and we had some crazy results coming in. If you remember, we missed game 1 of Clem versus Shin, but we got into game 2, and it was in game 2 where Shin was able to hide an all-in. He was able to hide an all-in on oh, my apologies. Sorry, actually, we casted both games, I think. He was able to hide an all-in.
Oh right,
on...
I remember Amphion.
Yeah. Able to hide it, able to catch Clem off guard, and yeah, just Clem having a harder time reading Shin and reading what Shin was up to.
Yeah, that was brutal. And on Dynasty as well, there was a little bit of a roach rush going on there. And I remember specifically, Clem looked solid when it came to actually, controlling units and defending with what little he had. But the problem is he just never had any vision. Shin just completely blindsided him. So even though the control was good, the numbers were not at all in Clem's favor. So Shin kind of beat Clem using his brain.
Yeah. Took his brain out, knocked him over the head with it. It was very very impressive stuff there out of Shin. If you remember, I would say maybe the highlight of the night, even though like Shin all-in and Clem was impressive, don't get me wrong, but Bjorn versus MaxPax, if you remember, Bjorn was going for the non-stop ninja bases.
I kind of agree because it was very interesting to see from Bjorn, but also at the same time, it was at a certain point, it's like, Bjorn, you've been hanging around Cure too much. You can't just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and having it and insisting that it works even when it clearly doesn't. And okay, to be fair, it did work a little bit on Golden Aura. I mean, getting that gold base on Golden Aura was what allowed him to survive MaxPax's initial 4-gate blink aggression, and then eventually he just slowed the game down to the point where he was able to win a bit of a battle by being more efficient, trading more efficiently than MaxPax. But then we got into Alcyone, and it was just the most anticlimactic end to that.
It was kind of not the end that we were hoping for. For those that are curious what we're talking about, I recommend the VODs. We casted it, I believe Wardy casted it as well. But Bjorn was going 3cc 3 racks, game 1 and game 2, but with a twist, as that third CC, instead of normally it's thrown down at home, it was being proxied as a ninja base, both on Amphion and on Golden Aura. And it's a build that we've seen from Cure, especially on Amphion, and we saw Bjorn embrace it completely in this series.
Yeah, but a bit of a shake-up to what Cure normally does. Cure normally just takes a normal base, a bit of a safer ninja base. Bjorn took the hybrid base on Amphion and the gold base on Golden Aura.
Bjorn was an animal. He's an absolute animal, and it did work on Goldenrod as we were like speculating. At least on Goldenrod, because that ninja base getting up and running for a little bit longer was mining more because of the gold minerals. So Bjorn was able to just get more out of it on Goldenrod, which was quite impressive. Did force Maxpax to the ace match, but yeah, it was not the end we were hoping for on
And then he went
Alkione.
for a 2-Rex proxy that immediately got scouted.
Yeah, that was it's not the end we wanted. So impressive play out of Max, wild performance out of Bjorn. Bjorn, he is denied the finals, and Shin was an animal in those finals as well. Shin versus Max
Absolutely.
was insane.
This, I would say, was the highlight for me of the
Yeah.
WardiTV Monday. This was an insane back and forth. We saw a lot of Shin specifically trying to whip out a lot of more unorthodox builds, using specifically Swarm Hosts a lot.
Mhm.
He did the, like you were mentioning, the Spine Crawler Rush on Dynasty versus Max
Yep.
Pax, which didn't quite work out. I mean, Max Pax, I think, had a very solid defense, so
Oh yeah.
it didn't work out at all for Shin, but he just dug deep into his book of Zerg tricks, and then we went to Oceanborn, where I was convinced that Max Pax
Yeah.
had it in the bag,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yet somehow Shin had just barely enough lings, and that didn't matter that they were getting killed to the oracles, because fun fact, oracle energy runs out. He had more lings than could be killed by oracles, and he was able to take the W right at the very end.
Yes, I do recommend watching the VODs. If you missed out on Shin versus Max Pax, Yaku's referring to the ace match, went all the way to game 5, and in the ace match, Shin went for a 12-pool drone pool on Oceanborn, and Max Pax opened up Stargate, had oracles. He made, I think, 2 oracles in the end, and he was killing a lot of lings. He was clearing up a lot of the all-in, but as Yaku mentioned, eventually, those oracles ran out of energy. Eventually, they ran out of energy, and eventually, Shin was able to overwhelm and kill every single probe. It was a crazy all-in, a crazy way to end the series, and Shin was the champion.
Yeah. It was insane. I feel like this series really sums up Shin. This series, and also what we got to see of Shin versus Clem, really sums up Shin as a player. A complete wild animal who is not afraid to throw anything at his opponents, but also thinks very long term. I think I mentioned this after the ace match, where I was like, "Oh yeah, Shin, he has to tap out, right? There are oracles already. He has to tap out, but Shin, unlike me, he's not short-sighted. He thinks further ahead, and I just had that clarity and was able to take it in the end.
It was just very chaotic and very.
He's like one of those apes in Planet of the Apes who has achieved higher reasoning, but also still has that wild side, that animal side to him.
Exactly. And again, it was not an easy run here from Shin. He took down Cure, Clem, and Max Pax, the best Terran and Protoss player in Europe, respectively. So really impressive stuff there by Shin. Again, showing us all that even if there are some maybe better, like mechanically better players. And there's been a lot of limelight on players like Cyril and Raynor, of course, and even Dark as well. But just because Shin can be so unpredictable, he can still threaten like the best players in the world. Like he can still threaten Clem and Max Pax, which is crazy.
Cyril, Raynor, Solar, all players who I would say their foundations are very much built off their mechanics. But then you got Shin coming out here, who is, I almost want to put him in the same category as Dark, but not quite as much. Dark, the narratives around him for so long is that, yeah, sure, maybe he's still very good mechanically, but maybe not quite on the same level as somebody like Solar or Cyril, but he's just really good at improvising and just saying, yeah, whatever, we ball. Shin is kind of in a similar category, except Shin, instead of improvising in a wild scenario, is the one who creates the wild scenario.
For sure. I do agree. I do think that there are some similarities between Shin and Dark, 100%. But Shin is a little bit more chaotic, and I would say that Dark, I would definitely say his foundation is a little bit more stronger as well, where he can, and sometimes is more willing to play at like macro games, right, and more standard back and forths as well. So yeah, it is great to see that they're still like, very unique in their own way and very stylistic as well. And I mean, congratulations to Shin as he was this week's WardiTV Monday champion. And then we can scroll over to the Kalara Steadfast Roddy Cup number 3.
Yeah, and this is one that I'm not gonna lie, Light. I'm a little bit disappointed that we didn't get to cast this, or that it was too late for us to cast it. Because looking at the bracket, Björn actually got his revenge against MaxPax.
And we have to ask the question: Did he do the same
He
thing
played on
again against
Amphion
Max?
and Golden Aura as well.
Yeah?
And on Dynasty as well, which is also another map that has a gold base. Maybe not necessarily a good gold base to Ninja, because it's very predictable there, but you have to wonder.
Yeah, I mean, following the news, I mean, we just went over it, but Björn did lose to MaxPax earlier that very day. This was on the same day, earlier that
Just
day
a
in the
couple
Warden
hours
Cup.
just a couple hours earlier.
Yeah, a couple of hours earlier, Björn did fall to MaxPax, went all the way to the ace match, and now Björn gets his revenge. Very impressive, because honestly, we don't really see MaxPax falter too often in these online tournaments. He is, the one to beat. He's the final boss. So very impressive here from Björn. Again, Björn, for whatever reason during the off season, he's playing in everything, including this. Like, this is an awful time for Björn, and he still signed up. He still showed up. He still made it all the way to the finals.
Here's the thing: you're saying for some reason, but look once again at his path towards this tournament. It's that narrative again. Björn, he just lives right now to eliminate Protoss. The minute he got into the finals, the minute he was up against Clem, a Terran player, he was like, all right, my work here is done. I don't mind getting clean swept. But when he was up against a Luton, Mana, and MaxPax, just the seething sheer hatred of Protoss fueled him.
There you go. Björn, he spent all of his energy, all of his brain power against MaxPax, Mana, and Luton, and against Clem, he did kind of run out of steam towards the end. I mean, congratulations to Clem. Clem, he didn't actually drop a single map in this tournament. He 2-0'd and 3-0'd everyone. That is crazy.
Yeah, impressive. That series against Shin, that was formative. I mean, let's not forget, this was also a Clem playing a couple of hours after he was eliminated from WardiTV. So, yeah, maybe just a little bit more awake, a little bit more awake after that series against Shin. So, hey, it's been said, a Clem who is awake and who, is in form and is able to really get his brain going, have the juices flowing a little bit. He's nigh unstoppable.
Definitely. So again, it's still really cool that despite we have the off season, clearly players like Clem, MaxPax, Björn, Trigger, Shin, Trap, they're all still very active. They're all still competing week after week as well. They're all going back and forth. As you mentioned, Clem got his revenge. He was able to come out on top in at least the European weekly. So congratulations to Clem. Pointing out as well that Trigger faced off against him in the semifinals. Trigger, he 2-0'd Hearthstone, took down Babe Marine as well. Trigger also staying up late. Trigger did not play in the WardiTV event, but he is in Korea and he did stay up for the European event. So Trigger being a little bit degen here alongside Björn.
Living in that team house with Estrella and Clem has changed him. Estrella, Clem, and the Goblin has changed him a little bit. He used to be such a good kid, sleeping at a reasonable time, waking up in the morning, and now he's sleeping in the evenings and waking up in the late night.
Yeah. Clem, Estrella, Future, they corrupted him. They have corrupted Trigger, and now he is going full degen. With that, congratulations to Clem. Shout out to Björn for making it to the finals and defeating MaxPax. Very impressive performance there out of Björn. And scrolling over to the Ursasaurus Cup, we can see, again, Björn, he played in all three. He played in the Tenacious Turtle Tussle. He played in the Ursasaurus Cup. He played in the WardiTV. He played in everything except for STC, because he was playing in something else as well. So Björn was in every single tournament. Does he sleep?
He would have been in all five if not for the Supers show match. And you know what? I have to imagine if Super show match was just a little bit earlier or just a little bit later, he would have played in all 6.
100%. So the week of Björn continues. Not as dominant this time is what we will say out of Björn, as we did see him, taken out by a variety of other players. But at least here in the Ursasaurus Cup, he was able to have a more dominant performance. Did face off against Estrella in the finals. I do notice a player missing here. Trigger, he played in WardiTV, he played in the Kalara Steadfast Cup, then he passed the hell out.
Yeah.
So not
He's
as
not
degen as
full
Beyond.
degen yet. Yeah.
Yeah. He's getting there. He's getting there.
Slowly but sure. But surely.
Mhm.
We'll get him there.
I'm sure we will. Estrella again. Great to see Estrella competing here as well, just because we haven't seen him as active. I believe Estrella is back in the United States. Did go to the ace match against Nikic. I do recall that series. We were lucky enough to cast it. It was a very close back and forth. Nikic was hyper aggressive. He was very all in, and Estrella also wasn't really probing too much either. So it was just very scrappy between Estrella and Nikic, like very close best of three between the two of them.
So it's like, I see you're trying to kill all my workers. Well, joke's on you. I don't have any workers anyway.
Basically, yeah. That's basically what happened, basically. So very intense back and forth between Estrella and Nikic. Beyond versus Estrella also had a bit of a back and forth as well. Estrella was able to fend off against him and definitely, make a series out of it. But Beyond once again was our champion, I believe, 2 weeks in a row. No, it's my apologies. Winning his first Ursasaurus Cup last week. Beyond made it to the finals, but Shin was last week's champion.
Right, I remember that. And we almost had that rematch in Wardy Mondays, but
yeah,
Max Pax had other plans. Beyond as well had other plans, evidently, based on how that Alkiona game went. But
true. Alas, this week for the Ursasaurus Cup, we were missing Shin. Shin was not here. Likewise, neither was Trap. So a little bit less Korean representation, but regardless, still a solid finals nonetheless. And the bracket was still massive as well, incorporating a lot of NA and Latin American talent. So once again, as always, a big shout out to all the community members and community figures that did host all these events for the Ursasaurus Cup, the Kalaris Steadfast Roddy Cup, ourselves, and also the WardiTV Mondays. Yeah, really cool to see all these events going strong.
Yeah. And I have to ask, because I'm sure most of us are curious about this. At the bottom of the bracket here, we have the American Players Show Match.
Yes. So for the Ursasaurus Cup, it wasn't planned out amazingly, but the plan was originally for there to be a show match after the finals with the highest placing players from the Americas that didn't make it to the finals, which is why Estrella is not there. It's the highest placing players. Those show matches have not been held yet, again, because it wasn't, it was very haphazard, very last minute. And by the time the tournament ended, a lot of the players were missing. But I believe the plan now is we're going to be hosting, the first 4 weeks of the Ursasaurus Cup. And then after that, there's going to be a fun, kind of show match day, a show match event where all the top NA players from Ursasaurus Cup 1, 2, 3, 4, they're all going to be having their show matches at once on that special day.
USA.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what the U in Ursasaurus Cup stands for.
Exactly. United. There you go.
USA.
Exactly. So because Avidita and Epic, they have not played out their show match yet. So that's going to be reserved for after the season of Ursasaurus Cup. After 4 editions, I believe.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a pretty neat way of doing it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Just have a little bit of a breakup, a little bit of a difference. And obviously considering how long some of these tournaments can get and how late or early it can get in North America and in Korea or in Asia in general, I suppose that is probably the best way of doing it.
Yeah, I don't think they had planned on so many signups and for the tournament to last as long as it does. So I think they were expecting it to be maybe a little bit smaller. So because of that, they have at least adapted and found a way to kind of like reconcile when those show matches will be held. So it's definitely something to look forward to at the end of the season. And again, congratulations to Björn for becoming the second Ursasaurus Cup champion.
Indeed. And I think we might be moving on here. So continuing the congratulations to Björn. Congratulations to Björn as well for an upcoming tournament. This hasn't been played out yet. The WardiTV Festival. Qualifiers for that are on the way. And congratulations to Björn for winning 2 qualifiers, apparently.
The hell happened? What?
Admin?
So I guess maybe they didn't realize that he had already played in one qualifier, so he played in
I don't
another
think Björn
qualifier.
realized either what he was
Yeah.
playing in. He's just
Yeah.
that consumed by his need to eliminate Protoss. Yes.
Mm-hmm. I'm shaking my head. But
Shake my head, Björn.
but yeah, as you did mention, we did have three qualifiers held over the past week. Quickly going over them, we have qualifier number 1. Now these qualifiers are open to all regions, to all players, but some of them are at a friendlier time slot for Europeans, another for Americans, another for Koreans. So the time of these events do kind of cater certain regions. But we did have our first one, and we had MaxPax coming out on top, which makes sense. Again, MaxPax, he doesn't really get an off season because he doesn't play in EWC or any of these online events. So
his off season is our on season, essentially.
Exactly. Exactly, 100%. So Max, he's been, having a break during all of this like EWC nonsense and EPT and all that stuff. And now it's time for the online tournaments. Now it's time for the WardiTV Festival. Now it's time for Max to shine.
In the taking out Trap here, 2-1 in the grand finals, taking out players like Shin, Nicoract, etc. on his way to qualify for the WardiTV Festival.
I mean, he got his revenge. He defeated Shin, went to the ace match, so Shin still caught him out a little bit there, but I like the idea of potentially a rival restarting here. It might be too early to say that. It's only been 2 series so far, but we'll see if they keep facing off, and they might even face off in the main events if they both make it into the festival.
Yeah, it'd be very exciting to see.
For sure. Meanwhile, Trap made it to the finals as well. Bearing in mind, top two do qualify. So MaxPax and Trap made it into the main event. Trap took down Cure and Young Yakov to make it to the finals. So pretty big wins here from Trap. Cure forced the ace match, but Trap still came out on top. I know that Trap has been putting in a lot of work. Trap is in a really weird place right now because if you remember, by the time Trap came out of military, which was only a couple of months ago, it was too late for him to accumulate points for EWC. So he kind of like missed the main season of StarCraft this year, which is a little bit bittersweet because clearly he's very good. Clearly he can contest against these top players. But he finished military a little bit too late to play in these big offline events.
Unlucky. Well, still holding out hope for DreamHack Stockholm.
Yeah,
personally. So
true. Yeah, I for the upcoming season of EPT in 2025, Trap, I would say, is definitely a Korean Protoss player to keep an eye on. Like, he's clearly putting in the work in the off season. He's clearly staying in shape and regaining his skill. And coming into next year, Korean Protoss players, it's not just going to be Hero and Classic and Nightmare. Trap is going to be alongside them, repping Protoss, at least from the Korean region.
Yeah, stats as well, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Fingers crossed there. Yeah, and that was our first qualifier. We had a second qualifier coming down here, which is the one that Björn actually qualified for.
Yep.
Those are finals. Björn versus Rogue. Björn, once again, taking out a lot of Protoss opponents, Rebellion and Christiana, namely, and then finally coming up ahead or standing triumphant against Rogue as well in the grand finals, but went all the way to the ace match. Wasn't a 2-0, was a 2-1.
Did they have a tie?
It looks like they did. They had a tie on post.
They had a tie?
They had a
tie. Okay, I recommend watching the VODs, Papi. Again, as you can imagine, the WardiTV Festival is casted by Wardy, and looking at Wikipedia, it looks like there was a tie on Post Youth, so that is very intriguing. Definitely worth checking out. As you mentioned, Björn did qualify, so did Rogue. Rogue is in a similar position as Trap, if you remember. Rogue and Trap, they finished military, at around the same time. And Rogue also missed out on the season of EPT.
Yeah, Rogue missed out on EPT. He missed out on the Esports World Cup. He missed out on GSL a little bit as well. But he did manage to, with the support from his team, thankfully, did manage to make it to the open bracket of DreamHack Dallas. Wasn't quite able to make it into the group stage or the knockout. Wasn't quite able to make it out of the knockout stage, but yeah, did have a pretty good showing over there.
You every time now you mention Rogue, you mention DreamHack Open Stage, I just think of Solar. I think
Yeah,
I think
poor
of
Solar.
all,
Solar,
all those
it,
EVCs that we
yeah.
casted.
Solar consistently getting blindsided, consistently
Mhm.
getting tricked. He trusted Rogue that he
Yeah,
was gonna play a macro game over and over and over again. I think like 4 games in a row or 3 games in a
yeah.
row. He was like, "Oh, you're gonna play a macro game," and Rogue says, "What gave you that idea?"
For those that are curious, we casted the open stage live of DreamHack Dallas, and we were covering Rogue versus Solar. They were in the open brackets in the very early rounds of DreamHack Dallas, and they faced off. They were in the same group, and they faced off multiple times in that open bracket. And Solar got knocked out before even the knockout stage, before even the later rounds. He got knocked out at the start of the tournament, which was really sad to see. But it just shows like just how intense the open stage was, and also clearly like how strong Rogue is right now, despite only returning for at the time was like a month or two, now a
Yeah.
little bit longer, but it's still like looking really strong.
Yeah, especially in ZVZ, because I mean, looking at Rogue's path to get to the grand finals, he actually 2-0'd Shin.
Yeah.
Shin, who we've been hyping up a lot in these past 2 weeks, Rogue
Mhm.
was somehow able to out big brain the big brain of Shin, which
Yeah.
I believe, I fully believe.
Oh
If there
yeah.
was anybody who was gonna be, if there was ever a Zerg player specifically who would be able to get the drop on Shin and pull out something that he wouldn't expect, it would be Rogue.
I mean, I believe that was a
And
10-minute
vice
series.
versa.
That's what I
Yeah.
believe. I believe that Rogue cheesed the hell out of shit. But regardless, congratulations to Rogue. And again, he's also a player to keep an eye on. He recently finished up his military service recently, a couple of months ago at this point, but is still looking quite good. Even took a map off of Beyond. Speaking of, Cristiano also took a map off of Beyond, so really impressive to see. Cristiano, I feel like we've been focusing on some other players as of late. Cristiano, he's been a little bit overshadowed recently, but is still an amazing player in his own right. I mean, hey, he won
Yeah.
the earlier
He's the
EU Open Cups
S13.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is the
Is the
S13
S13
champion of Sparkling Tuna Cup.
Yeah, the most sparkling tuners out there belong to Cristiano. So to force Beyond to the ace match is impressive. He himself is also leveling up, but this is where both Beyond and Rogue qualified for the festival.
Indeed. Then we go into the third qualifier, which is the most recent one, where Beyond also qualified.
Mm-hmm.
And so did Shin.
Yeah, this was a couple of days ago. I mean, you spoke about we have been hyping up Shin over the past couple of weeks, and Shin didn't make it in the last qualifier, but this time there was no Rogue. There was no Rogue. Shin does make it through. Did fall to Beyond in a best of 3 grand finals. But as you mentioned, this is a really weird game state because Max Packs also played.
Yeah, and so did Trap, now that I look at it. So
these players, mate. God damn it.
Yeah, that's
And I think that explains why. I don't know if you saw the main event Wikipedia page. It obviously it crossed out Beyond from qualifier 3, but usually it's top 2, so there should be another player there. But it's complicated because
I would have expected they would have given it to Mana, right? Since all the other players, Max Pax, Beyond, and Shin, already qualified.
Maybe. I mean, it would traditionally go to Max Pax, but Max Pax also already qualified, so they can't go to him. And so like, so it was a bit of a messy qualifier, a little bit.
Yeah, I imagine that this just means that the invited slot will have.
Yeah,
there's going to be an extra slot for invitees.
100%. I think that's I think even Wardy did state as well that the invites are also he's going to take into consideration like how players that were active in these online qualifiers, and for those that did go far and didn't quite make it, then he'll most likely invite them as well, just because they showed that determination and dedication to the festival
for playing in all 4 qualifiers, and winning all 4. I feel like they should pull a WTL and just have a special award for player who won the most qualifiers.
God damn it, Beyond. God damn it. So congratulations
to
Shin.
An award or a punishment? I would prefer a punishment because I think that would be funnier.
And play with a handicap.
Making the new Chicken Lord or what have you.
There you go. There you go. There is still one qualifier remaining, qualifier number 4, and that is going to be taking place. Oh, actually, I think later tonight.
Yeah, just a couple of hours from now.
There you go. There you go. So, still yet to determine the final qualifier, but I'm sure we'll be going over it next week. And once all the qualifiers wrap up, then the main event will begin. So, shout out to Wardy for hosting the Wardy Festival as well. Yeah, it's really cool to see him running an event like this, especially during the off season. Just because right now, we are a little bit more starved for content and starved for big events like this. So, yeah, really cool to see Wardy taking the initiative, not just for these online weekly tournaments, which everyone has stepped up in, but for a bit of a higher tier, like major event like this.
Yeah. Yeah, really cool to see. I mean, Wardy, he's been doing stuff like this for a very, very long time.
Mhm.
Right. There was the, the Wardy Seasonals from way back when.
Yeah.
The Wardy Spring Invitational, or the Spring Tournament or something like that. So he had one for summer, fall, and winter back in the day.
For sure. He's always been quite a crucial part of the StarCraft scene for a very long time. When it comes to the event itself, it will be run throughout to the end of September, coming into October as well. So keep an eye out for that. I'm sure we'll keep you guys updated week after week with what's been going on in the WardiTV Festival.
The WardiTV Festival, the OFC mid-season.
True.
Yeah.
True.
And all the other, all these other tournaments or leagues, should we say, that are not just going to be played out in a single day or a weekend.
Definitely. So, with that kind of wraps us up a little bit here. Again, we do see a couple more of these players being more active. Rogue, Shin, Byun, Creator coming back after a bit of a break is always exciting to see as well. So, yeah, it's really cool to... something really cool to take away from a lot of these online tournaments is just keeping an eye out for who's active and who isn't at the moment, and who's dedicating time to the game and who's taking a break.
Yeah, who to watch out for when eventually the off-season ends and the on-season begins.
Yes, so waiting for that moment. When it comes to some, I guess, kind of outside of StarCraft themes or kind of like news
happenings.
Happenings that's been going on, I think I want to say like yesterday or the day before that, I think Rotterdam did allude to it as well. He was very vague, but he was alluding to an upcoming patch that's coming for StarCraft.
I remember that.
So it sounds like he's a little bit familiar with what's coming. He obviously didn't say what it was, but definitely saying to look forward to what's coming in the future. Yeah, and the upcoming changes to StarCraft.
Yeah, hopefully good changes.
Yeah, he wasn't necessarily talking about the return of the on-season, but just referring to the upcoming balance patch that should be coming soon. Yeah. So definitely something to look forward to. Otherwise, yeah, that is the events of the week.
There we go. We wrapped it up.
In record time as well. Again, we want to try to keep it concise and kind of go over all the events as well. Something that we might want to do next time when it comes to like other news, because recently we've just been recapping tournaments of the week, but going over some of the news of the week as well would be nice. Maybe next time. I know there's been updates regarding Hero Marine, for example, and some other like Stormgate related news as well. We'll branch out a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see if we can fit it into the schedule. I mean, we'll see if we can fit it into the schedule. I don't think most people will mind. I certainly don't mind if we go a little bit longer. So, but we'll have to prepare something for that.
So
yeah. We were just preparing for the worst.
Before we finish this podcast, producer Kuro would also like to remind you about the sign up list once again. All the events are set in time of your computer, of your browser, so you should be able to see it in your time. We have several open tournaments this week with WardiTV Festival qualifier once again. We have Korean StarCraft League, the King of the North, Sparkling Tuna Cup, Tenacious Turtle Tassel, WardiTV Mondays, Scalary Steadfast Roti Cup, Ursosaurus Cup, and more. We also should have Code for Giants Cup, which is a bi-weekly for Brazilian players, so if you are from Brazil, then make sure to check it out. And something that's in a bit over a week, but I want to point it out because it's a slightly different tournament, there is a big game Experience Craft, which is a live event, offline event in Cologne, in Köln, which is happening on 27th. So if you happen to be local to Germany or just want to travel there, that is also an option. For the Sekiro out.
Yeah, that was one of
I wanna
the things
travel
that
there.
I'm sure it smells beautiful. But that was one of the updates that we got from Big Gabe on his YouTube video, is that he did say that he was bringing back the offline Experience Craft event. Apparently it's like at a gaming bar or like a PC cafe. I guess kind of similar to the House Galactic Battle. But it's not as, I guess, professional. There's no like
But in
player
German.
booth setup or anything.
But in
like
Germany.
That. Yeah. But in Germany. And I think for the first one, he was able to bring together a bunch of like German pro players. I think he said that this time there's probably going to be less of them, which means there's going to be like better opportunities for maybe some lower tier players. So because of that, there's a lot more opportunities in this event. So if you happen to be local to the scene, if you even have to be like in a nearby area, like a nearby country, and it's not too expensive to take a train over to Cologne and be a part of it, then yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Just stay away from the. I don't remember which is the one that. I don't remember which is the rail line that gave everybody trouble, that everybody was complaining about the last Home Story Cup. They're like, I made a
No.
mistake taking whatchamacallit. Just avoid that one.
Yeah, avoid that one. Yeah.
Yeah, the one
the
that
other
I'm talking about that I don't remember.
Yeah. Yeah. Make sure you get the one that he isn't talking about.
Yeah. Was it Deutschbahn?
I'm not too sure.
I
I'm not
don't
too sure.
remember.
But yeah, it's really cool that, again, I mean, we spoke earlier about how here Marine recently he has been kind of like branching out and seems to be, socializing a little bit more with some other players and collaborating a little bit more, and to see him hosting his own events is definitely something that I wasn't quite expecting, a year ago, for example. So yeah, really cool to see that he's helping to foster the local scene. We always praise the Polish community for, hosting Polish LAN events all the time, and for being able to grow and foster the Polish scene at least. And it's really cool that Hero Marine is taking that initiative himself.
Yeah. Definitely. I think for a very long time, I would have imagined the sort of German equivalent to House Galactic Battle and that sort of stuff. I would have said Home Story Cup, except Home Story Cup, obviously, over the years it grew, and it's not quite the same. It doesn't quite fulfill the same purpose as something like House Galactic Battle, which is specifically for local talent. So if a Gabe to come up here and to be a bit more analogous to that, and to say, hey, I really want to foster more German players here in by creating a LAN event that is not exclusive to them, but is more focused on them. I think that's really cool. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of updates from the German scene in the upcoming months.
I mean, there's a lot of talent in Germany, like No Mercy, aka No Money, Shark Ripper soon. We were praising
It's No Money, also formerly known as No Mercy.
Unfortunately. But we were praising for Jimmy, right? We were praising for Jimmy earlier, and I mean, if some of the other big names, because Gabe is going to be casting, if Showtime and Lambo don't show up, and I think Gabe was alluding to the fact that they wouldn't be there, then hey, for Jimmy, he can, at least not his players. Then for Jimmy, he can step in, he can sweep map, he can take it all. It's possible.
Yeah. We'll see.
And we'll be looking forward to it. So keep an eye out on Big Gabe's stream for that event. Otherwise, we are going to be wrapping up. We're going to be wrapping up here for the time being. Again, just wrapping up all the weekly tournaments so far. But next time we might try to branch out and have even more to talk about and go into even more greater detail as some other happenings in StarCraft.
Indeed.
Otherwise, Yaku, thank you for joining me here tonight. Kuro as well, thank you for producing. Yaku, Crab Champion stream. What's going on? When's the next stream?
Maybe. I got all of the new achievements that were added in already, so
okay.
Maybe the next time I stream, it's just I'll just see how far I can go in the Ultra Chaos difficulty.
Okay. Are we ever getting another StarCraft ladder session or Heroes of the Storm or something like that?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Here's the thing. I don't want to out myself to the public how salty I get.
Okay.
So,
true.
if I ever do decide to ladder or quick match, ladder in StarCraft or quick match in Heroes of the Storm, ! Discord into chat. I'll probably just Discord stream on the CranKy Duckling server
Okay.
where you can join if you are a subscriber or a Patreon contributor, which again, ! Patreon in the chat. You can check that out.
There you go. Patreon. If you want to bear witness to the salt and the smudge of Yaku of the Zaku, then you can do so by subscribing. $5 a month. And bam.
I have a reputation. I actually laddered the other day, and I was actually laddered the other day against an opponent, and they were like, "You are so like I'm cheesing the hell out of you, and you are so calm." And I'm like, "That's only because you can't see my face right now and can't hear what I'm yelling. I'll have manners in game, but outside of game, I'm seething."
Oh no, not like this. It's okay, Yaku. It's okay. But yeah, you know what? Maybe as well. That would be a lot of fun is if they do update the team game ladder pool.
Yeah.
Team games. Play some
Maybe team games.
Maybe.
Yeah. Can get resituated into that.
There you go. I've been tempted recently. I've been tempted. To dive into that. Otherwise, you follow.
I was gonna say, try to get all the boys in there. You know, try to get Ash. Try to get. I would say try to get Milk, but I'm pretty sure he's busy being an adult now. Same with Phoenix. Feels
it's copium
bad,
on that one. It's copium. Chase is always up for some team games. I know
Chase,
that. So
there we go.
Might drag Chase in. But yeah, with that, so you can follow myself at light_VIP. I do try to stream on a regular basis. I was laddering earlier today. And we might end up streaming some Final Fantasy later tonight as well. That's a solid maybe on that one, though. Depends on how everyone feels and how everyone is going. But otherwise, might have some Final Fantasy. Otherwise, tomorrow there should be another stream going on as well. So if you're interested, we got check over there. If you want some more CranKy Duckling action, then the next stream of the CranKy Ducklings is going to be over the weekend. On Saturday is going to be the KSL, the Korean StarCraft League will be on Saturday. We have the Masters 1 Open on Saturday as well, and Sparkling Tuna Cup on Sunday. So the weekend is when we come back to casting for the rest of tonight and tomorrow, though no tournament cast on the CranKy Ducklings.
Indeed. I'm going to be busy with other things, but not with casting just yet.
There you go. There you go. Meanwhile, if you want to check out Kuro, our lovely producer, Kuro, where can we find you?
You can find me over at twitch.tv/16squadsanseki, as well as YouTube at 16squadsanseki, where I am dual streaming to both Twitch and YouTube as we are playing Final Fantasy with Light. I may also try to stream myself playing something at some point. Schedules are hard.
Soon TM.
Soon TM. Fingers crossed for that.
There you go. Just like the Divinity stream. Soon TM. Soon TM. We'll bring it back. One day.
Potentially.
I'm scared. I've been rewatching the old VODs of our Divinity streams and I just imagine all of us getting back into it and having no idea what we're doing when we're already
how we built what our characters are good at, how we built our characters, like what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, when we were playing the game, we were already doing some interesting mistakes, and now we don't even remember how the game works, and we're on like higher difficulty because we already left the tutorial. Oh boy.
It'll be fine.
To give you a sense of how long it's been, I was technically still a teenager the last time we played Divinity.
It's been a couple of years. But with that, otherwise, thank you so much everyone for watching. Thanks so much everyone for tuning in. Shout outs as well to Thriving GG for rating us at the start of the stream. Big shout out to Thriving GG. Likewise, a shout out to Kashim for subscribing for 12 months for 1 year in a row. Thank you so much for the support, Kashim. Gracias. And with that, we are going to be wrapping up here for the time being. Stick around. We're going to be giving another StarCraft streamer a raid. We'll find someone to send everyone over to. Otherwise, thank you for tuning in.
Yeah. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Ciao.
Bella.